Hey guys, it's Carly here for MFT, and today I wanted to share with you a watercolor inking technique that I love to use because it makes me feel very artistic, and I always think the results are pretty. So for this technique, you need your favorite watercolor cardstock, some water reactive inks, a misting bottle with clean water, a gorgeous stamp set like this pretty poinsettias that I cannot get enough of, and then if you have a stamping tool, that definitely makes it easier. So I've got my watercolor cardstock in my Misty, my stamps are ready to go, and then I'm going to ink them up with some Distress Oxide inks. Now I'm inking both with Picked Raspberry, and then I'm going to go back with the Festive Berries and just add it a little bit as accents. Now after inking my stamps, I'm going to mist them with the clean water, and I'm going to use a pretty heavy hand with the water. I want the ink to really move around and make kind of beautiful pools when I stamp it. Now this is a step I would advise having a few practice rounds just so you can see how much water you really like. If you wanted a more defined image of the stamp with more details, obviously you'd want less water. If you want it even messier, you could do more water. You could do lots of layers. I've got this first layer and I do want to move that ink around a little bit more. And since it's a Christmas card, I thought, why not shimmer spray? So I sprayed a little shimmer spray on my craft mat, and then I'm just using a paintbrush to move that ink around even more with the shimmer spray. Now, I often would skip this step of moving it around with a paintbrush and maybe mist my stamps again and stamp them down onto the cardstock to add more water and let things move around, or even just leave it as it was after the first stamping, and whatever kind of colorful pools I have there on the image, just let those dry and call it good. So it just depends on the result you're going for, if it has enough of a watercolor look for you, whatever you're thinking. This one I'm actually even adding a little bit more color because once I blended it out with the shimmer ink, I was like, oh, I want a little more red. So I just swiped my ink pad on my craft sheet and I'm using that paintbrush to add more color. Now I've left my stamps in place on the Misty and I've left my card panel in there. I've dried it though with a heat gun, and now I'm going to come in and stamp those images again with black ink. So that's kind of adding a detail layer over my messy watercolor-ish layer. So you can see the result there. This is exactly what I was going for. Since I'm going to move my poinsettias and do another watercolor layer, I want to make sure they're really clean, no extra black ink. So I'm going to clean them a little bit more than normal with some stamp cleaner and still my stamp chamois. Move them and then ink them up with Distress Oxides for another round of the watercolor look. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I feel like I have enough poinsettias on my panel. The next thing I want to add is a little bit of splatter. So I'm just smooshing my ink pads onto an acrylic block. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that shimmer spray and then use a paintbrush to flick the splatter all over the card panel. So after that, I want to add a sentiment. I'm using one from the Inside and Out Christmas greeting set, which is just so pretty. And I'm going to use the trick that I always talk about, so please forgive me. But I'm going to put a piece of acetate on top of my card panel in my Misty. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment onto that first so I can make sure that I like where I've positioned it. And this is why I do it, because I'm so glad because I stamped that sentiment onto the acetate. And I don't like where it lands at all. So I can clean that acetate off, clean my stamp, move my stamp, and then test it again before I really stamp on my card panel. And that second position for the sentiment is so much better. So glad. Then I wanted to add a little bit of yellow to my poinsettias. I did a little bit of white colored pencil first and a little bit of yellow on top. It's still very subtle. I'm not sure if I'm going to change it. Maybe add a little bit of glitter glue or some kind of glossy accent type of thing. I have to think on that. For right now, I left it like it is, and I think I like it. Sometimes it's hard to decide till later. Final touches were a few sequins and a little faux black splatter with a pen, and I'm going to call it for now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.